A week ago today, the obscure source of the most difficult cosplays, as I named her in a video several years ago, Sakizo Illustrator, posted this image of two little sewing girls who have sewing pin border prints, ruler mark border prints, whatever this floral pattern is here, with this weird little, what my best guess is like a pattern guide marking in the floral print, with spools of lace just begging to be turned into a bag, buttons the size of coasters, thimbles on their heads. And to top it all off, the red one has a giant pair of scissors on her back, and her name is Chalk. According to the post, it's Choco, which is how you would say it in Japanese, but Choco is the katakana version of the word chalk. She's based on chalk. She's wearing chalk right here. You see that? She's got chalk as a brooch. Sakizo does this to me at a time when I have 6 vlogs to edit of going to her home country of Japan. But she hits me with this. So now I have a half-baked scissor to show you today. It is not a scissors yet. It is just a scissor because I have only one of them. But by the end of this video, I will have a scissors. But yeah, so yesterday I spent like 8 hours in my garage in the summer heat in Georgia getting eaten by mosquitoes to put this together. So let's get to how I patterned this. Like almost every cosplay I ever do, this all started in Illustrator. In the actual image, which I will pull back up, you can literally only see the top of the scissor. And I really turned this into a pair of snips. A scissors, a specifically right-handed scissors, and a snip. I don't know if this is correct, but I would define a scissors as something with a longer blade than it has a handle. And a snip is something with a longer handle than it has blade. So, because it only shows the top, behind it, there is also an image of like a random antique scissors so that I could get an idea of the proportions of everything, but I didn't actually use that image as a reference at all. But if you watch what I'm doing here, the big thing I want to educate on today is a method I've decided to call, it's a great name. It doesn't need any workshopping at all. It's perfect. The totally tubular bisected angle mitered corner method of patterning props. Did everyone get that? Take notes, class. Which will mostly get explained when we get to the putting them together part, but pay attention to some key things that happen when I'm patterning it. Sakizo is a watercolor artist. She's a physical media watercolor artist. So the image we were looking at is a photo or a scan of an actual physical piece of art media. Because of that, you lose a lot of the details on top of the low quality from Instagram, because this is literally just a screenshot from Instagram. She is also pretty impressionistic with her details. Like, she is so known for these really intense amount of details, but when you really get up on her detailing, it is very impressionistic. It is the impression of filigree on this scissor. So when I first go through and start trying to pattern this, I'm literally just tracing what I see on the image. And as you see, it looks wonky. It's nothing that's going to fit into what I'm looking for my totally tubular, I forgot to give you the acronym for that. The totally tubular bisected angle mitered corner method of patterning props, or the TD-BAM, which we're just going to call T-BAM. I hope y'all think this is as funny as I do. But it's actually like, this is a concept I really, like, if you can understand T-BAM, you can kind of make anything. So none of this will work for T-BAM, okay? They're really weird shapes. It's not working out. And so I'm just kind of like, I don't know about this. And then I look over here and I see this shape, and it's so much more well-defined than the other side. So I start tracing it. And the biggest, importantest thing is that I add a line in the middle, which is also especially important because there is a pronounced line in the actual drawing, but that's where the bisected part of T-BAM comes in. That thing that I'm tracing right there eventually became this. So a preview of why the bisected part is so important, because it creates all this dimension in the end. Do you see where we're going with totally tubular? It makes a tube. Totally tubular, bisectored, mitered corner method of patterning props. You see how every single one of those intersections is like this. And so what you get is a tube of mitered corners. Does that make sense? But what that looks like in Illustrator is just patterning shapes that can form a T-BAM tube. I get this shape and I'm like, okay, this works. This works for what I'm trying to do. So I like copy it over to the other side. It's looking good. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna have to kind of base this on vibes more than the actual reference image. And so then what I start doing is forming a base structure that these filigree pieces are going to sit on. And I end up with this, and I just based the size of this on that photo of the other antique pair of snips. And yeah, I just kind of did a run until I got what's a silhouette that looked like something I wanted. And then I printed it out in line art form. And I had this beautiful pattern just from the reference image and a little bit of thin digital air. But what you're looking at is this one is kind of just like a guide printout. So it's like I have this silhouette. I can see where my pattern pieces are, and that will help me, and it has been helping me assemble the thing. It's also life size, so it also let me see like that I was happy with the size. And then the other side you're looking at, it is the actual pattern I used to cut out the actual base out of foam core. Foam core is like the stuff you might buy to display a child's science project on. It's a foam and paper sandwich. However, foam core is not too bad for prop. First of all, it's very flat. It is not a thermoplastic, so you don't have to really worry about it getting warped. Pretty sturdy. It's particularly really good for blades. I have a blade that I made many years ago out of foam core as a demonstration today. This is a foam core blade of mine, my rose quartz sword. The scabbard is also foam core. This, however, remains, I mean, it was primed, but it is raw foam core, so you can actually see into the blade itself. It just is like foam right there. I did finish the back of it with something. Do I remember what? No, it was probably like quick seal. Actually, you know what I think that is in there? Paper clay. I think it's paper clay back here. The hilt is Warbler, and this poor thing is a toilet paper tube that was not built to be that, but the rose is Warbler. This thing has seen better days. I made it in 2015. But anyway, you see that like foam core makes for a pretty good, decent blade. You just have the issue of like, if you don't cover it with anything, you're gonna have a flat, foamy piece that you need to do something about. Here's the issue with foam core. For when you can do this pretty easily, you can do that. You can also just do this. So it's like a decent thing to help you form a very lightweight base, but you don't want to just use it on its own because it's literally paper and foam. However, it is really easy to cut, so it is pretty easy to get something like this, something to build up other stuff onto to form a scissors that is also like nice and flat, very lightweight, very cheap. I also just had some. That's dangerous if you get angry at it. It sure is. The top handle of this, I reinforced just with wire and duct tape and hot glue, which isn't just enough to keep it from doing this. This is very lazy, but all of this is getting covered up. You're allowed to be lazy in the stuff that gets covered up. So that is the base of what became this. You can't even see any of the ugly stuff, so why does it matter? Okay, next up, laser cutting! Y'all, I love my dumb little laser. If you've never seen my laser before, it is a like $200, $300, $400 one. I thought that cutting it with the laser was just going to be like, I'm just being lazy. Frankly, I was like, okay, this is rich people shit. This is so unnecessary because I could easily just cut all of these pieces just with my X-Acto knife, right? However, this ended up being an incredible level up in terms of like cutting accuracy, which, like, duh, with a laser. But here's the thing. The laser is not actually cutting any of the pieces all the way through. What it's doing is scoring the foam. The reason I did this was not to cut the pieces out, because I actually cannot. I would not be able to do what I plan to do. You can't do T-BAM with a straight laser cut item. You have to do T-BAM with an X-Acto knife. You have to physically cut things with it because all of the cuts have to be at an angle. So I thought I was just gonna laser cut for the sake of not having to print out all of these little pieces and then cut out the paper pieces and then trace onto foam all of those little pieces and then cut out all of those little pieces. This way, all I had to do was laser cut them and then go through and actually cut them with my X-Acto knife. I thought this was just going to be about being lazy and saving those couple steps, but what this now did was every single piece is so much more accurate than I ever could have gotten with all of those other steps, because it's like, you cut the paper piece out. Now there's inaccuracies in the way you cut the paper piece. Then you have to trace that. Now there could be inaccuracies in the way you traced something, and then you cut that. And like, look at this shot here where you can see that some of my cuts on these curves are actually really messy because cutting a curve is really hard. Inside here is actually looking pretty gnarly. How uneven that cut is. But you know what you can't see? You can't see it from the front because that's the edge that the laser cut. It means you can cut curves and be messy, but still get a perfectly accurate curve because the laser cut the curve for you. You just have to cut the bevel on the inside and you don't see that part. I didn't know it was going to be that poggies. Because of the T-BAM method, you do actually have to cut them with an X-Acto knife. And the big thing is you want to cut it beveled, so you don't cut straight down. You take your blade and you angle it at a 45-degree angle, or the best angle you can get, and you cut inward into the piece, which will cause you to get pieces that all have edges that are ready to become mitered corners. If you've ever tried to do prop work and you got to the cutting stage and your work with the cuts was just like really gross and messy, the problem is not you, it is that your blade is too dull. And it's one of the reasons why I don't use box cutters, because I am and forever will be a knife bitch, because it's just so easy to change an X-Acto knife blade. Do not buy real X-Acto blades. Go on eBay, look up craft knife blades, and buy them by the 100. They are like $15, and the 100 will last you so many projects. Okay, so I got all my pieces. This is also where I'd love to hear how we feel about the POV footage. I feel like I'm going to get some comments on surplus, or maybe even during the stream today, somebody's going to be like, Sarah, this is making me motion sick. I can't handle this. Never do this to me again. Gluing it together. I am using Dab Weldwood. This is the contact cement I use, but I know a lot of people use like barge cement. It's a 1B carcinogen. It's not good for you. It can cause brain damage, which is why you see me, and it's also not good for your skin, which is why you see me wearing gloves. And I'm wearing a respirator during this. The Dab Weldwood specifically is essentially neoprene that's been melted with a solvent. The solvent is taurine. In that one, I like re-looked at the safety data sheet. If you're one of those people that's like, I'm fine to not wear my respirator around contact cement, I dare you to read the safety data sheet. The way you use it is you brush on a little bit onto the edge you want to glue, and then you try to put them together, and then you realize, oh, it's not sticking, and so you put another layer on, and you let that dry. That's the other thing. You're supposed to let it dry. You're supposed to let it get tacky. You're supposed to let the solvent evaporate and leave just the sticky neoprene, because what happens when you do that is it bonds on contact. It sticks immediately. And one of the other things you'll see me doing is occasionally, like, standing up to get to my heat gun to kind of heat the pieces up to help the curves make those weird curves. Like these ones needed to be a little heat shaped so that they would do that. But for the most part, a lot of the shaping is just coming from the T-bam of it all. Those two pieces, because they were beveled inward, when they get glued together, they just form those really dramatic shapes. The particular reason why contact cement works so well is because it bonds on contact. The way you get that with these curves and have them look good is by getting them to bond on contact. You can use hot glue. You can do clean hot glue seams. It's just that the more curved the seam, the more you want something like a contact cement glue. There are many things you can do with hot glue, you just need more patience, but the big reason to use contact cement is because it bonds on contact, and the more curved a shape, the more you would want it. So with all those together, I then started assembling everything. And so that is my core, and then 2 pieces of craft foam that I glued just around the inner edges initially so that I could put the core in there and then sandwich the core inside these pieces of craft foam. The big reason to do this mostly is to cover up the foam core so that everything on the outside of the prop is of a similar texture on this part, so that like when I go to prime and paint it, paper is going to react very differently than foam. This is also going to protect it because remember, foam core is paper. Anyway, then I just glued all of that over the base, and you can kind of stretch it. And then I also did this so that I could do some detailing with my hot tool, but I pretty quickly realized that this like middle one with what I did to it.
Why do they all look like buttholes? Just gonna embrace it. They're just all gonna look like buttholes.
But you know what? I moved on, and and then I got to gluing on the filigree pieces. So going back to T-bam, I guess I never really finished. So like from the pattern, I patterned these 2 shapes flat, and then through the power of mitered corners, they form this really nice angle with each other. And then when you double that, and you have a mitered corner on the top, you both create all of this extra tubular dimension, but you only had to figure out 2 of the surfaces. So if you look at any image of anything and you imagine that it is a tube, you only need to know 1 or 2 of the surfaces because you're just figuring out what will form that tube. Is this making sense? Do we understand T-bam? Is this helpful? Because this is how I've patterned like so many of my like really complex props. And that, look at that! Look at that thing! Look at it! I'm so happy with it. It's so beautiful. It has so much dimension. And it's patterned. I mean, it's not finished yet. Here's some of the issues that do need to be solved. Here's some of the issues that will come up with when you use something like foam core instead of anything else as your core. You end up with edges like this, where I'm gonna have to do something about this. But when you're working with an impressionist watercolor drawing, it's okay to just make some things up. We're gonna talk about the blade now. Some of you are already like, ooh, I know that specific tan color. Know exactly what I've done with this blade. Here's how the blade started. It is just a piece of foam core, cut by hand to have bevels actually on either side because I cut it on the wrong side initially, so I just cut them both. And it looks fine. It looks good. It looks it makes it more like it's a sword scissor, which is very fun. Yeah, so it's foam core that I covered in Worbla. I'll show you the thing about this that is actually crazy about this Worbla. Came off of one of the large Worbla rolls. The 60 by almost 40 normally costs $109 at Michael's. Actually got this at Michael's because, believe it or not, it was on clearance for 60 bucks. It normally being over $100 for the largest size is why you never see me use Worbla. Yeah, on clearance. Worbla on clearance. And I don't use it because I hoard Worbla. I squirrel, as my friend Alyssa's Instagram name is squirrel verb. I squirrel it away and I never use it until I really am like, damn, that is like a thing that Warbler is really good at, because there's a couple things with Warbler that it is just the best at. Those times being, again, stuff that you want to be really durable and stuff that might get whacked on the ground. This is literally just foam core covered in Warbler. If you're a baby cosplayer and you don't know what Warbler is, though I think we as cosplayers are all like, yeah, Warbler, it's one of the 4 elements. Warbler is a thermoplastic, I believe specifically designed for cosplay. It's something like, I think, it's like wood chippings and some kind of glue, but it is this hard as a rock, thin thermoplastic that thermoplastics the most of so many of the thermoplastics. It's really good at enveloping something. Very thin, but it's very strong. But when it heats up, it can get even what I would describe as goopy if you heat it too much, which means it's really good for putting a thing in between it and then heating it up and shaping it into that shape. You literally just heat it up, sandwich it in between, and then smush it. I really enjoyed using that like wooden clay tool, but would also recommend for something like this, something called a bone folder. I think you could call my wooden thing a bone folder, except it's made of wood, not bone. And then you just like cut it apart. I let it cool and then I had to heat it up again to actually get it cut. It is a little hard to cut. Tend to avoid using it because it's really expensive, and I know that that's not in everybody's budget to use it, so I try to avoid it as much as possible for the sake of those who watch me not feeling like they need it for things. You certainly don't need it even for a blade. I just showed you a blade that is just foam core that has been finished. I now, in my house, have this enormous pair of scissors. Look at it. Now I have a scissors. The scissors has arrived. It operates like a scissors. Cannot do it you can't do it one-handed. It's a two-handed scissor. Not a left-handed or a right-handed. It's a two-handed scissor. It's quite a ride to get here. Not a fun ride to get here. I got quite big annoyed with my big scissors to get them finished. But that's what we'll talk about now. There's parts of these that I'm like very happy with. And then there's other parts that are like, ooh, that's annoying. First, before we talk about painting and priming and all that, we gotta talk about the attachment. These actually completely detach. Not even just scissor from scissor, but handle to blade. It's got PVC threads on it. So there's a little PVC thread thing installed either side of these. I'm actually not super happy with the amount of length the PVC thread things added. Like, it's not the same proportion that I planned because I didn't account for the size of these when I made the pattern. And then, of course, the actual, like, scissors operation part, there's just a little bolt in there. I am gonna make, like, a antique-y looking cover to match this. I just haven't done that. That is why this is almost done and not totally done. I drilled a hole in them and then I installed a bolt. And then there's these little Warbler stoppers keeping them from going too far. This is very fun. This makes me happy. But yeah, I was actually getting really annoyed with these this week because there was so many things that were just like, oh my god, they're like, I got the second one done and then I was like all ready to like, all right, I got the foam clay on there. I put filigree in the foam clay and then I was like, all right, I'm gonna start priming stuff. And I was like, wait, I gotta do the attachments. Wait, I gotta cover up the attachments. Wait, I gotta get this filigree on there. I gotta make sure everything's glued right. Oh, I gotta add these stoppers. So there is like several days of just like, I had to fiddle with little things that were delaying me doing the priming, and that was annoying me because I wanted to see what it looked like painted. That's always my problem with props, is I run out of patience for seeing it like this, and I want to see it done. And I'm just like, crap, I gotta do all these different things before I can actually start priming it. So then, priming it is where everything got really annoying to me. So I don't have footage of me actually spraying it on, but I decided I would use Plasti-Dip because these are admittedly a little bit wiggly. They're EVA foam. They're not a piece of armor that's going on my body, but I was still like, this piece is a little unstable. It's a little wiggly because the core of it is foam core and wire. It's not the most stable thing in the world. So I was like, if it flexes, I don't want it to crack. If you're completely new to EVA foam and you don't know, you have to prime your foam with something before you paint it, or else the EVA foam will suck up all the paint and then it will just look terrible. Most people that do armor stuff that goes on the body, the big one everybody uses is Plastidip, which is like, I don't know, it's like a weird rubber coating that you can actually like peel off metal and wood and stuff. Like that's what it's for. I don't know. Does anyone know what Plastidip is supposed to be for? Reasons to use Plastidip are it's flexible, and because it's an aerosol spray, you don't have to worry about streaking. Another thing you can use to prime EVA foam, my actually preferred method, is Mod Podge. I like it because I like the texture that you get on the foam with Mod Podge. It feels more plasticky. That is because it is plasticky. But the problem with Mod Podge is two things: is it can crack, which is bad. Also gets streaky because you have to apply it with something. But the upside is it's non-toxic, and I do really like the texture it gives. You just have to worry about it cracking. So if that thing is going to flex at all, it's probably going to crack. 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 I think I hate Plastidip, y'all. I think I hate it. For one, I do not enjoy the texture of a Plastidip prop. I don't like how it feels. I don't like it. I ran out of patience for Plastidip as well. So because it's essentially, you use it like a spray paint, and you have to wait every 30 minutes to do a new coat. It's also between 95 to 105 degrees in Georgia right now. So I got really, really tired of every 30 minutes the day I was priming this, putting on my nitrate gloves and my respirator, going outside in the hot sun, squatting down to get my cardboard, spraying around these pieces while squatting because I should have just put my stupid little Walmart table out there, but I didn't. Then taking all of that, going back inside, taking all that off, sitting, waiting, having to wait for 30 minutes, and then putting all of that back on, and then going back outside in the hot, squatting down, spraying. By the third spray, my hand hurt so bad I could barely spray. And my left hand just not good at spraying. And so now my hand hurts, I'm hot, my legs hurt because I'm squatting, and it's hot, It's July 5th. We're in the middle of a worldwide heat wave. And I'm outside trying to use Plastidip on a piece that is not even that wiggly. And I just got really fed up with that bullshit. And so I only did one side got 3 layers of Plastidip and the other one got 2. It takes too many, because you're also supposed to do light layers, because the other thing you can get with Plastidip is this pilly texture that happens if the humidity is off, your Plastidip will give you this pilly texture. It's one of those things where I have seen that Plastidip pilly texture in judging. The prop will be absolutely beautiful, but then it will have those little Plastidip pills, and I know that person that I'm talking to lives in Florida, and I know the weather wasn't right when they went to spray their Plastidip, and I have had other judges be like, I don't like the texture that they had on that. They had that weird Plastidip texture, and I'm just like, I don't know that I really want to count them off for that because the weather wasn't right when they, don't even get me started. Yeah, so there's not enough layers of Plastidip on this to even start painting. The thing is, and this is a thing I forgot, it's a thing I forgot because it's a prop that didn't end up getting worn. Only my patrons remember that weird hat that Skeeter, the fairy, was supposed to have. I made that weird, awful hat, and I experimented with a technique that I heard from a contestant where they told me they did 3 layers of Mod Podge and 2 layers of Plastidip, and it was the most beautifully primed foam I'd ever seen. I'd completely forgotten about that. If I had done that, I would have been much more happy with this, because when you get the Mod Podge on there, it actually seals up the foam, so you don't need nearly as much Plastidip, and then the Plastidip works to cover up the streaking of the Mod Podge. because I forgot about, I highly recommend it. It looked amazing. I don't know how cracky or flexible it is, but you know what? I should have done that, and I didn't do that. And this is what like 3 layers of thin coats of Plasti Dip is before your hands start hurting really bad because your carpal tunnel runs in your family. So I did it backwards. I did like 2 to 3 layers of Plasti Dip, and then I came in with a layer of Mod Podge just to like make sure I could start painting it and feel good about how the paint was gonna sit on it. A tip though with Mod Podge to get not as many streaks is to use a sponge brush. I thought the whole Mod Podge situation was gonna be the most annoying thing, but there was more annoyance to be had. But the next thing I did was prime the Warbler on the blade, which was much less annoying because I could do it inside because I just used wood glue. I also, this is me looking at a pair of scissors to remember like that scissors have striations on them. This is where somebody literally just asked, if I have brush strokes, will a judge count me off? Well, if the thing literally has like straight lines in it, if the brush strokes are evenly going with that, then no. Then it looks like it's tooled that way, and so it's purposeful. But yeah, I used wood glue to prime it, as you do with Warbler. It is just like the old faithful with Warbler. The problem with wood glue is that it can also crack, but if the thing is stable with Warbler, then you don't really have to worry about it cracking. So with everything primed, everything got even more annoying because I decided to use a paint that I hadn't used before. Apparently, this is a decently popular paint. I had literally never seen this paint before, the Flexi paint. But when I was buying EVA foam on Blick Art Supplies, saw this paint, and I bought some of it, and I don't like it. To be fair to it, I wasn't using it in a use case where you'd even want to use it. I was using it because I thought it was interesting, but also because I bought the gold for it, and I thought the gold was super interesting and something I really wanted to work well, because gold metallics, flexible metallics, are difficult. They're especially difficult if you don't have an airbrush machine. Metallics are very difficult because if you have any streakies, metallics make streaks stand out really bad. And also, metallics can crack pretty bad. And so having a flexible gold seemed really nice. And the tests I did with this, it is super duper flexible. However, it is lying on the bottle when it says no primer needed. It absolutely needs a primer or it does nothing. I was especially excited for the black because I thought that this could be like the one coat black of craft paints, but it is not the Holo Taco one coat black of craft paint. It is not that at all. I, in fact, really don't like it. I will say, again, I'm not using this for what it's meant to be used for, but the thing I don't like about it is, one, it's lying about not needing a primer. This is what it was doing on something that has been very well primed. It got weird and streaky and picks itself up. That I don't like. It's really thick and therefore makes really big streaks, which I do not like. The fact that I was trying so hard to avoid a lot of streakies and like how much better this prop would look in the end if I had just done the stupid technique that I did on that stupid hat that never got used, but I just wasn't thinking about it and tried to use this paint, and it just goops up everything. Only use this if you need something to be like hyper flexible, because there was no reason to use this on this prop when, like, yeah, it's a little wiggly, but it's not that much at risk for cracking. It is streakier than it needed to be now. Oh, and this was the other thing it did. I don't know why it did this, but when I was putting it on my paint palette back there, like, it was going on fine. It had a pretty, like, a similar working time to, like, acrylic paint, if not maybe a little less time. But for some reason, at some point when I put it on my paint palette, something on my paint palette reacted with it, and it would seize up and dry completely on the paint palette within, like, a minute. You see that? It was almost completely dry, and I had just put it on the paint palette. I had a wood glue, like remnants of wood glue on the paint palette, so I assume something chemically in the wood glue was making it do that, but I don't know. I ended up putting it in like a clean plastic cup and then it worked fine after that. But yeah, I'm not a fan of this paint. I do have, however, my own suggestion for my own version of one coat black, and that is Mod Podge mixed with black acrylic paint. Because it has Mod Podge, yes, it does make it a little streakier. It also means it might crack, but if you're looking to paint an object in a single coat black, this isn't bad. It does depend on how much the ratio is. I did, in some pieces of this, go in with 2 coats of this. It's a 1.5 coat black. We're not quite the perfect 1 coat black craft paint, but it's decent. Painted everything with my 1 coat black. At this point, you might ask, Sarah, why didn't you just buy black Plasti Dip? And the answer is, I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking when I bought white Plasti Dip. I don't know what I was thinking when I did the Plasti Dip. I guess I just forgot how painful it is to spray things with my hands. I think that's just what I forgot. I like to start with an entirely black prop and build stuff up because it just makes like weathering easier. However, this was also futile. After I got everything painted black, I did go in and I painted several layers of the Flexi Paint Gold, and it just looked terribly streaky. It looked gold. It did look reflective. It was shiny, but it was also just like not a super pretty color of gold. It looked goopy. It was Goop City. I built it up in several layers. It took forever, which was also very annoying. So I gave up and I went outside and I started spray painting it with my favorite gold metallic spray paint, which the word of the day is crack. This also can crack pretty bad and will show streaks pretty bad, but it's a really, really pretty color of gold, and it is beautifully metallic. If you put this shit over resin, it is like a mirror finish. It is so nice. I did not want to resin coat this prop because that can also crack. This one over here is the Flexi Paint Gold, which I don't like the color. I don't mind that it's streaky because, you know, the streaks, it should have streaks going that way. On this one, I did end up doing another coat just because this was super uneven. It's a 5-foot rule prop, that's for sure. But with all of that spray painting done, I went in and weathered everything just with acrylic paints, just with black and brown, got in all them little cracks and crevices, which took a freaking while with all that little filigree in there. Going around with tiny little brushes, weathering around the filigree to make it look nice. I still don't know how I feel about the little filigrees. I guess they add a lot of texture. I don't know. It's fine. It's not exactly how I wanted it to end up, but it's certainly a pair of scissors, that's for sure. There's another thing I really don't like about these. So for one, they're a little streaky, they're a little goopy, and by goopy I mean like, look, they're just goop. There's just a little bit of goop. Little goopy. And then here's the thing that made me so pissed about these. One of the things that kept delaying me from doing the priming, like I was fussing with these for like 3 or 4 days before I actually could even start priming them. The thing that was driving me nuts was getting the scissor part to sit flush. So I kept taking them out to the garage, heating them with the heat gun, taking them back inside in the air conditioning, putting it flat down on the cold countertop to help it cool and stay flat. And I did that, and I kept messing with them and like holding them together and like putting the bolt in there and trying so hard, working so hard to get them to like sit flush together like a pair of scissors do. And I got them to do that. And then I got done with all my painting and priming, and they don't sit flush for some reason, and now I can't heat shade them anymore, and I'm so mad. Like, I don't know what caused that. They were sitting flush, I swear to God. Before I painted and primed them, they actually were sitting flush, and now they won't. And that's very annoying. They do this, though, so it's fun. It's fine, I have a giant pair of scissors. I only had 1 scissor last week. And now I have 2 scissors. Here's the big speech. I need the Dover button. I put a lot of pressure on myself to have this prop look a certain way. So to get to the end, and feel like I didn't achieve that goal is disappointing. I can't pry my eyes off of the could-haves and should-haves, the streaks from the paint I had no business using, the goop of it all, the duck bill of these scissors. But then I remember that I made a 3-foot pair of antique snips based on a peekaboo appearance in a screenshot I took 2 weeks ago. I may not have the perfect pair of big scissors, but I now own a 3-foot scissors, and I'd call that a victory. Cut! Now I can call cut like a real professional.